Is Paulina Castrellon, and I am Vanessa Guillén. Specialist Vanessa Guillén was a U.S. Army soldier. She was only 20 years old. She went missing on April 22nd, 2020, from a U.S. military base in Fort Hood, Texas.
My name is Gina Moreno, and I am Vanessa Guillén. Before Specialist Guillén went missing, she had told her family she was being harassed by her sergeant in Fort Hood, Texas.
My name is Fernanda Fiantari, and I am Vanessa Guillén. Her family thinks that they have been kept in the dark because very few details have been released about Guillén's sister.
My name is Vanessa. And I am Vanessa Guillén. Guillén had been missing since April. April 22nd, and on June 30th, 2020, her remains were discovered. Near the base.
My name is Brianne Martin, and I am Vanessa Guillén. One in 3 girls will have been sexually abused by the time they are 18. In the United States, 1 in 5 women will have been raped in their lifetime.
My name is Maritza Bravo. I am Vanessa Guillén. I am requesting for a congregational investigation in the murder and disappearance of Vanessa Guillén.
Welcome to the Engineering Gals YouTube live series, Gals Chat, Latinas in STEM. Our goal today is to discuss the Latina experience and also highlight the case of Vanessa Guillén, a Latina Army specialist that was sexually harassed and later murdered by an Army sergeant in the U.S. military base in Fort Hood, Texas. Today we are bringing you a phenomenal Latinas from various different engineering fields. So let's roll into introductions. My name is Marixa Bravo, and I am a first-generation American. My mother's from El Salvador, and my father is from Colombia. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Long Beach State University, focusing in structural engineering. Now I'm working as a full-time construction manager for one of the biggest ports in Southern California. So let's go ahead and introduce Paulina.
Hola a todos. My name is Paulina Castrillon, and I'm an environmental health and safety engineer. I graduated from Cal State University Northridge, aka CSUN, here in Southern California. My family from my father's side is Mexican American from Zacatecas, and my mother was born in Uruguay. Majority of my family is from Ecuador, Uruguay, y Argentina, y Mexico. So you'll see me representing, and I identify myself as a Latina y una Chicana. I also work for Lockheed Martin as an environmental health and safety engineer.
Thank you, Paulina. Let's go with Valeria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valeria Cerrone, and I'm a civil engineer in San Diego. I work for TULN International, and I am a first-generation American. My family is Mexican, so I identify both as Mexican American, Hispanic, and Latina. From my mother's side, we're from Baja California, so Tijuana, and from my dad's, we're from Michoacan, so Mexico.
Oh, thanks, Val. Let's go with Fernanda.
Hi guys, my name is Fernanda Zulantay and I'm straight from El Salvador, born and raised there. I moved to the US when I was 19 years old, and I went to a community college first, then I transferred to a four-year college, and I just graduated with my bachelor's in chemical engineering. Next semester, I started my PhD also in chemical engineering at Yale University. And also, I'm a first-generation student. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, thanks, Fernanda. Let's go with Gina.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Gina Moreno. I'm a first-generation Mexican American and first one in my family to go to college. My parents are from Mexico, as I stated, in Chihuahua, and I was raised in the border city of El Paso, Texas. I went to school and I got my bachelor's in industrial engineering and a lot of experience along the way, and I got my master's in systems engineering. Nice to have you.
Oh, thank you, Gina. Let's go with Brianne.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brianne Martin, also known as the People Engineer. I have my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I've been in manufacturing for the last 10 years. 3 years ago, I've been blessed and have the privilege to be able to start my own engineering consulting firm. So I serve as a manufacturing engineering consultant, as well as my second business as an international speaker. I'm a fourth generation Tejana, so we'll definitely talk about the different identifications that we have as Latinas in STEM. I'm incredibly excited to have you all here join us live on YouTube. So thank you for your time and looking forward to the conversation, ladies.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks. Thank you for all being part of the panel. I'm super excited to be sharing our experience and just overall educating the public about our experiences and also different definitions of who is Latina, Chicana, Tejana, all of those definitions. So as all of you guys may know, we all identify as Latinas here. Some of us, we identify as other definitions. So we kind of want to start with the definition of what is a Latina? Who are those people? Are there any other definitions that you identify yourself with? Let's start with Paulina.
Thank you so much for asking. So I myself identify myself as a Chicana. So the term Chicana is a word that started off in the Chicano movement. It was Mexican American women who wanted to give themselves a name that stood for political activists, culture, heritage that represented themselves during this Chicano movement. And the term Chicana came about. During my time in university when I was studying Chicano studies, this is when I felt so passionate and so powerful and connected to this, being a very proud Mexican American Latina, but Chicana too. And a Latina is anyone within a Latin America, anything from Central America, South America, and below. And since I have family in South America, I also am very proud of my South American heritage as a Latina.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those definitions, Paulina.
Thank you.
Brianna, do you want to chime in?
Sure. So I think, again, it's a beautiful diversity. We all promote diversity and inclusion. So for, Paulina to talk about Chicano and Chicanas, as well as myself as a Tejana, I always make the joke for anyone who knows history is, I've been in Texas. And so we usually get this question of, well, where's your family from? Well, Texas. Yeah, but where's your grandma from? Texas. What about her parents? Texas. I'm fourth generation. I say, the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border. And so it's really interesting, again, with the amount of identities, and again, the Hispanic term of even thinking about some type of Spanish speaking. We have over 22 countries around the world that speak Spanish. Hispanic tends to be tied to more of the European, Spain, again, kind of side, where, again, that's Paulina defined Latinx or Latinos. And so it's really interesting from that side, because I identify as multi-generational or multicultural, more like a mestizo, right? Because half of my family is from the Spain, again, European side. They came in a boat, landed in Texas. We cross-referenced, or again, became multicultural with, the Native Americans, as well as, the Mayans and Incans, you think way back. And so identifying as a mestizo is, can't exactly say what percentage of what. And so it's really interesting because, Spanish is a part of our culture. It's a part of our heritage. Depending on what culture that comes from is definitely a mixed race, and, plenty more that we can identify with.
Yes. Thank you, Brianne, for those definitions. Paulina?
I also wanted to add in something that's really important, and especially with current events going on and with terminology for Latinas, is Latinx. So a lot of you guys have probably heard the term Latinx and probably thought, what is this? What is this X, the X at the end of the word stand for? Well, Latinx stands for a gender neutral or non-binary alternative. So maybe you're Latina and there's Afro-Latinas, Hispanic, Spanish, Tejanas, all sorts of names. And I always like to put ourselves in the Latinx umbrella because we all identify as something different and be proud of it. Anyone and everyone can be whatever you want, whatever you identify. That's why Latinx is that gender neutral and non-binary alternative. So just a FYI.
Yeah, thank you so much for those definitions. I also wanted to touch upon Afro-Latinas. Today in our panel, we do not have Afro-Latina to be representative within the community, but an Afro-Latina is anyone that comes from African descent, and they might have lived in Latin countries, and that's who Afro-Latinas are. So I know in our previous Gals Chat YouTube live series, we did have representatives of Afro-Latinas. They do identify within the Black community, and they also identify within the Latino community. So we definitely wanted to touch bases on that, and they are also part of our community. As you guys could see, Latinos, we come in all color, shapes, and sizes. We could be, Black all the way to blonde with blue eyes. So it's a very large spectrum. So yeah, so we just wanted to create this content so that you guys could identify what is Latina, who identifies as Latina, and then all the other definitions that were brought up within our panelists. So let's go ahead and move on to identity. So one of the first questions for our panelists is, what are some things that you associate with your Latina identity? And let's start off with Valeria.
Cool. Hi. So for me, it can be whether it's culture or language. Like I speak Spanish at home, or I guess as I've gotten older, I speak more Spanglish. But it can be food. Most of the time, most of our food at home is Mexican, probably a healthier version of original Mexican food. But it's that music, we're always blasting either like Luis Miguel or something to, just get that vibe at home. And for us, it's traditions. When I was little, we used to make pink tamales with my great grandmother. And it might not have been something that we carry on every year that we make tamales, but as as I was little, it was very important for us to always get together during Christmas, make tamales. We would have either, tacos dorados, or, something that would make us also feel like authentic and together.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Val. Let's go ahead and go with Paulina. How do you identify or associate yourself with your Latina identity?
So definitely for me, it has to be the culture, the history, the música. Now I mentioned my family's from South America, so I'm a big foodie. Food for everyone is a time in the Latinx, Latino, Chicana culture. We sit down with our family. My family is old school strict. You sit down together, you turn off the TV, you turn off the cell phones, and you sit and you talk about your day. Whether it's eating empanadas, sancocho, arepa, whether it's eating carne asada, tamales, enchiladas. I feel so connected with my family, with my culture, with my roots. Not only that, it's la música, whether it's Vicente Fernandez, whether it's Juanes, whether it's Bad Bunny. It's understanding that language and feeling connected with it. It's something I can tell you, anyone who is Latino, the minute you hear some music, it's just in your hips, you want to dance. And the most important is the history. Understanding our history from where we came from, how we got here, and what we have to fight for every day, and what we're doing today is speaking upon as Latinas. As Latinas, as myself, this is what I found so important and what I identify as being strong women and strong mujeres. So thank you, guys.
Oh, thanks, Paulina. Let's go ahead with Fernanda.
So I agree with guys 100%. So my Latina identity, it's really everything I am, because I was born in El Salvador, and as I said, I moved here and I was almost 20 years old. So at that point in your life, you're already you know, like you already have your personality, you have the music that you like, the things you enjoy, the food that you like. So like, I mean, definitely it's in me. And like, I always go back to El Salvador, and like I talk to my friends, and I feel like there's a connection that I can only have with them. Like the jokes, even the memes, you know, we get it, you know, like Salvadorians get it, but like maybe other Latinos from other countries don't get it. So like, but anyway, like in general, yeah, like Latina, it's in me.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I agree with all of you guys. Something that I'm able to identify myself as a Latina is it's the language. So I speak fluent Spanish. I speak Spanish. I love it. I listen to Spanish music, read Spanish books. So language for me is extremely important, and I hope to pass that on to the next generation. And then also the food, the music, also bright colors, you know. I tend to gravitate towards very bright colors, and I think it's just the way that I grew up with my family. So that's really awesome for me to hear all your experiences and how you relate to your Latina identity. So the second question is, have you guys ever had to navigate the topic of authenticity? And if so, can you share your experience? Let's start with Brianne.
Sure. So I think for me, and as mentioning Tejana, I think, you know, again, the Hispanic and Latinx is kind of the bigger, you know, groupings. And so simply just being a Tejana, growing up in South Texas, you know, they would see me with brown hair, brown eyes. When I say tortillas, like, you know, I can roll my R's. So they would automatically say, oh, well, you're Mexican. And to me, I felt like that's totally watering down the Mexican culture, because like I don't identify, like that's not, you know, I didn't have a quinceañera, that's, you know, not my family. And so it was really interesting of trying to, again, navigate like the authenticity of still being a Hispanic or being Latina. It was really hard, you know, as I got older, because then these labels, those expectations of the stereotypes that you are Latina, so you're feisty and you're loud and, you know, you're confident and you're proud. And even though most of the time I do align with that stereotype, there are other times where, you know, I would find myself that it wasn't expected, or I would have, you know, family members or just other Hispanics or Latinos that I knew that weren't good dancers. And so then they would say like, oh, well, you're not a real, you know, Latino, or I would even get, you're not a real Hispanic because I didn't speak Spanish. But for most Tejanos or most Tejanas, like, we understand that it's because, again, we are growing up in this time where we were treated as second-class citizens if you were speaking, Spanish. So whereas my family, protected me and tried to get me not to speak Spanish because they didn't want me to be seen as less than, again, in Hispanic or Latino communities, then I'm seen as not Latino enough because I don't speak the language. So it was really hard trying to find the two. Even now, I'm really proud to wear my wavy curly hair, and I've just found products that really support that of how I can wear my hair without it being kind of Diana Ross style. And nothing wrong with that either. I just didn't know, and so I think, again, the stereotypes, the expectations of society, it's unprofessional to have my hair this way. When that's literally how it grows out of my head, was a really hard contrast because you want to fit in, but there's also the difference between actually belonging. And the sense of belonging is simply like being who you are and still being welcomed rather than changing who you are to fit in. So understanding, again, living in America, and again, the great country and opportunities that it has, there's still a lot of work to be done. So again, understanding the differences of stereotypes versus different types of personality, diversity of thought, and even music, right? I learned how to dance country music first, then I learned cumbia, then I learned another type of country dancing, then I learned, merengue, bachata, and salsa. So, if you were again to gauge me on what kind of dances I know, would definitely be different with my experience. So again, I think that comes to the authenticity part of really what do you identify with, as well as your self-acceptance of your life experience up until this point.
Thank you, Brianna. Thanks for sharing that experience. So, ¿hablas español? Poquito? Yeah, más o menos.
I understand better than I can speak.
Yeah, okay. Let's go with Valeria. Do you want to share your experience of how to question your identity?
Yeah, so for me, I think where it was a little harder to identify myself or really feel truly Mexican was when I was in college, because growing up, my first language was Spanish. I didn't learn English until I was 5 or 6, where I started elementary school here. I was born in the U.S., but because we do live in a border city, we went back and forth, and I went to preschool in Tijuana. So it was, I guess, growing up that I did elementary, middle, high school, and college all in the U.S., that as I grew up, I kind of started losing touch with those Mexican values. And when I got to college, I met a lot of Mexican friends, and I almost felt like I wasn't Mexican enough to be their friend because I didn't have the same experiences. Maybe they came to the US when they were in middle school, so they had maybe their teenage years where they could associate themselves with certain music, versus I have more of an American memory of middle school and what kind of music was popular in those years. So now it's little bits and pieces that I connect, whether it's with Americans or with Mexicans. But yeah, in college, it was kind of okay, well, am I really am I more American than Mexican? What does that even mean? Am I losing who I am? Am I trying too hard to be too Mexican when that's not really how I was? So it was definitely required some self-reflectioning, and even now it's still okay, I'm a proud Mexican. I want to know more. I almost want to know what I missed out on from the Mexican side, because I'm so in the US.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to your experience, Val. I think as first generation American, it's also, that struggle of, you have parents that are immigrants, but you're first generation American and you're adapting to the American culture and you're growing up in the American culture. So you feel a little bit more touch in that, but also you have to reflect and understand, at least in my perspective, my culture, where it came from, where my parents are. So thank you for sharing that experience. Let's go with Gina.
Yes, I can definitely relate to Valeria because I also grew up in a border city. And if you've ever been to a border city, it's really unique because, I mean, at least in El Paso, it's 90% Hispanic population. And you can speak English or Spanish, and most of the time people understand you. And so I was pretty much in my border bubble thinking, this is the US until I left, for my internships. I left to Missouri, Indiana, Midwest, and I was like, so I'm the only one here who's Hispanic and like knows Spanish. So like that really helped me become self-aware, right? And I think talking about, friends who are Mexican, born and raised in Mexico, they hold me to this expectations of being Mexican that I can't keep because I didn't go to school in Mexico. I don't know as much history as I would want to. I don't know about politics. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, like I'm Mexican, but like you have to be patient with me. And at the same time, like with Americans, it's like, well, I don't share your culture. I don't share your values. If you're not of Hispanic or Latin descent, I just don't identify with that either. So it's just being in the middle of these two cultures and trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean for me? And so in becoming friends and meeting people with all backgrounds, I became really self-aware of like who I am, who I want to be going forward, and accepting who I was really helped me in my career. So I think at the beginning I was really hesitant to say certain words because I wasn't going to pronounce it like they were, just like Rian said, tortillas, or just any words that I wasn't sure how to pronounce. I was pretty scared because I was going to say like, oh, they're going to know that, like I don't know how to pronounce it properly, or even downplaying the school that I went to, like UTEP, because it's not well known, and going to internships where you have people from Rice and they're like, oh, I would downplay, I go to UTEP. And by the way, I stayed home during college, right? So this is very different from the American culture and the American experience. So I was just, insecure about it. And I think after I accepted, this is who I am. This is what makes me powerful. It made me be comfortable in sharing everything. And now I think it's what gives me power.
I think just overall your unique experiences and how you navigate, your experiences, getting in touch in both cultures, both Mexican and American culture. So thank you, Janelle. Let's roll into our second question, which states, what are the things that you do now that help you connect with your heritage? So let's go with Valeria.
So one of the most important things for me is talking to my grandparents. So I'm really fortunate that I still have all of my grandparents alive. But whenever I visit them, I sit down and I ask deeper questions. Like, I want to know more. Like, what year did you come? When were you a cherry picker? When were you, like, how was that? And it really brings a full circle to like who I am, because it brings it into perspective. It's not just something that I'm reading in a textbook that like, oh, this is what your people did. It's like, no, this is like what my family did. It's in my blood. As well as, like I mentioned, like keeping up those traditions, the food, especially the food and the dancing. Those are huge for me.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. A way that I try my best to connect with my culture is, keep my Spanish up. I think while I was at home with my parents, I spoke Spanish every single day. But then once I got to college and now I'm living by myself, there's no one that I could speak Spanish to. Around here, even at work, we speak English. With my friends, we speak English. So I really try my best to, watch Spanish TV, Rica Famosa Latina. I watch those reality shows, or I even watch like books. I read books in Spanish. I think overall, just keeping my Spanish fluent is extremely important to me. And that's kind of a way that I connect with my heritage. So. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is life as a Latina. And I just wanted to give you guys a trigger warning before we move on with this panel discussion. These events do contain information about sexual assault and or violence that may be triggered to survivors. So while we go on with the discussion, I'll go ahead and warn you guys when we will get into sexual assault experiences or stories that our panelists will be sharing. So let's move on to the next topic, which is life as a Latina. And what is it like to be a Latina, and how has your experience or perspective changed the course of your life? So let's go ahead and start with Paulina.
Thank you so much for asking. So for me growing up, being my family from South America and then my family from Mexico, I understand I am a much lighter skinned Latina, and there's racism within our own culture, right? So growing up, because I was fair skinned and I had lighter eyes, lighter hair, it got dark over time. I was known as Rosita, Blanquita, Clarita, where my other cousins were much darker. So I always felt that I was never Latina enough. I always felt some sort of confusion. I had this long Spanish name. I was surrounded by people who spoke Spanish to me, the food and the music, but I just didn't feel it because everyone around me just started putting their views on me, right? Society. So in university, when I took Chicano studies, and even that, because I was a STEM major in Chicano studies, even my own professor was kind of like, what are you doing in here? What? Why are you in Chicano studies? But once he got to learn, that I was very interested in, I fell in love with Chicano studies. I fell in love with the term Chicana. And instantly, I started learning more about myself. For me as a Latina, number one is language. I've been able to use my language as a powerful resource, especially in my career now as an environmental health safety engineer. In environmental health and safety engineering, and I've been traveling across, the United States with my work, Spanish is a great resource. It allows me to connect with other people. And being Latina, I'm able to connect other people on a cultural level, on food, on music, on things that's much more broad. It's not just talking about engineering, STEM, and production. I want to know, ¿cómo te sientes? How's your day? How are you feeling? It takes it to another level. And I've now come to terms, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks of me, I am a proud Latina. I'm a proud Chicana. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help anyone within the Latinx community. So that's how I identify, and I'm very proud of being one.
Oh, thanks, Paulina. Thank you for sharing that experience. I could definitely relate to that. Let's go with Fernanda.
So, as I said, I grew up in El Salvador. So I grew up being Latina without even knowing. And then when I moved here, I realized that I was super different, especially because I moved to Connecticut. You guys are from the South. Here, there's not a lot of Hispanic people. And everyone was super different from me. And I started realizing how much of a Latina I am, right? And then, as you guys were saying, I started being more self-aware of my position, also about being a minority, something that I never felt in my life. In El Salvador, most of the people is Salvadorian. We don't have people from other countries. So for me, it was when I came here, I was fascinated to meet people from all over the world. And I was always saying oh, can you speak this? Can you tell me how you say that? I was just so excited, right? But then I also started experiencing people discriminating and how people see us as minorities. And so by being self-aware, I started advocating more for myself and for my people. And so I came here and with my sisters, and my dad, he came first, but we were the first ones here, and we've been through a lot. But I've heard other stories of other situations that have been worse. So every time that I meet another Latino, and I always ask, about their stories, and if I can help, I always help them, because I remember I went to the diner one time, and there was this older man, and I just think about my dad, and he was older than my dad, and he was doing hard work, and we gave him a tip, even though he was doing something else. He wasn't the waiter. And we tried to help him because I remember my days, so definitely I started advocating more for them.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to your experience, Fernanda. I think, as similar to your experience, when I was growing up, I lived in a city where there's everyone was Latino. Everyone, everybody, my friends, my mom's friends, everybody. It wasn't until I got into college that's when I realized, like, oh wow, like I am a minority. Throughout my entire childhood, I never felt like a minority, like people would say on TV. It was just something that the TV would say, but I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about because I've never experienced that. So it wasn't until university that I realized that I was a minority, and especially when I was traveling to conferences in different areas of the country, I realized, like, oh my God, I am a minority and people are looking at me different because I do look different from them. And that's when I really started really connecting to my Latino heritage, and I really started to be proud. I think as a child, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, like I'm Latina, whatever. There's other proud Latinos within my community that they would speak up or they would do presentations or whatever it was, but I never felt the need to do that until I got to the university. And then I started realizing, like, oh, maybe I should start speaking up. Maybe, I could be a role model for younger Latinas that are trying to come up as well. So it wasn't until university and young professional life where I really started my best to, like, with an intention of, strengthening my culture and my heritage, and really trying my best to, be as fluent as I could be in Spanish, to connect with the Latino community. For me, I always go back to my community because I could relate to them, and any type of struggles, I could relate to them. And I'm always like here to help out in any situation, just like Fernanda. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Throughout the history of being Latinos and first generation American, there is a story of Vanessa Guillén. Vanessa Guillén was a young 20-year-old female who was, who enlisted herself in the U.S. Army. That was her dream. That was her future. As some of us, maybe our dreams and our goals was to get to the university, but Vanessa's goal was to be in the Army, to be a soldier. And as many of you guys do know the story, Vanessa Guillén reported to her family that she was being sexually harassed. And then after a few days later, she went missing. Her family went into, demanding the U.S. military to do a thorough investigation. They felt like their voices were being ignored. This news made national headlines throughout the entire country. A few months, weeks later, we find out that Vanessa Guillén was murdered. So with this being said, the murder of Vanessa Guillén has gathered national attention. What are your thoughts on sexual harassment and the Army's failure to protect Vanessa Guillén? So just a trigger warning to the audience. This is when our panelists will be sharing their experience of sexual harassment, how to deal with it, and we'll keep going with ongoing discussions. So let's go ahead and start with Paulina.
This is a really important conversation, and I'm so glad that we're bringing this alive right now. This is the time to have uncomfortable conversations, especially with what's going on. I myself have experienced sexual harassment. As a young Latina in my young 20s, when I heard Vanessa's story, this hit me personally because I was very similar to her age, and I was a safety engineer traveling all around the United States. I would go to different states, different cities, and I had a colleague of mine who was a male, and he would say a lot of inappropriate things, would ask me a lot of inappropriate things, and just like Vanessa, I would send text messages to my own family saying, this is what's happening. I was scared to report because I didn't want to get fired. It was my first job and it was my first time working in the field. Until an incident happened where my coworker was drunk, intoxicated, and tried to break into my hotel room. Things escalated from there. I then found the courage to speak up, and I told my HR department. Unfortunately, my company wasn't taking the right steps to protect me. Now, guess what? My job is environmental health and safety. The irony of it, right? That my company wasn't looking out for my safety. So believe me when I say my world turned upside down. When I heard Vanessa's story, This hit me instantly to my gut. Not only as a woman, a Latina, but as someone in safety. I had to learn and educate how to speak up for myself. How can I fight back? How can I get this person who did this in trouble and anybody else who's going to do this to anybody else? So I started looking into rules, regulations, and law, like OSHA. If you're someone who's being sexually harassed, or maybe someone who's been sexually assaulted, you can go and speak up to someone that you trust. Talk to the HR department. And if you feel uncomfortable, talk to your environmental health and safety department, like myself. I work with OSHA. I have to follow and protect the rules and guidelines and protect your safety, because at the end of the day, safety is number one. Unfortunately, with Vanessa, she told her family, but look what happened. We don't want another young woman or young man to have to experience that. Times are hard and it's very difficult, but even when your voice is shaking, and believe me, I've been there, speak up. You will be okay. And we will provide all the information on how to get help, how to seek help. You can also go to all of our social media pages where we will go ahead and post that information. Once again, what happened to Vanessa, we hope that it doesn't happen to anybody else. So this is our platform where we're going to go ahead and educate, aware, and help you and inspire you. So never forget that. With Vanessa in regards to the military, I hope the military continues to look out for the safety of our soldiers, because we love our soldiers. They're out there protecting our country. And like I said, as your safety engineer, our safety is our number one priority, because safety is everybody's job.
Thank you, Paulina. I definitely do agree with your last statement of, safety is everyone's job. If you see a man harassing a woman, if you see a woman harassing a man, it is our job to speak up, and it's our job to try to correct it and to protect people around us. When I personally heard about Vanessa Guillén's story, I saw her mother and I saw her sisters and Univision. This story was picked up by the Spanish news communications network, and I could relate to Vanessa's story because just as her mom, my mom also doesn't speak fluent English. Sometimes when you go to authorities and you don't speak the language, the people don't take you seriously. They don't do anything for you. And when I saw her mother pleading for help, when I saw her sisters pleading for help, I saw my family. I literally saw my mother crying. I saw my sisters crying. And as a young Latina, as much influence as we might have on the internet, I felt like my job is to bring light to this story, to tell as many people as possible about what happened to Vanessa Guillén, because just like her mom, she's speaking Spanish, and sometimes the authorities are not taking that as serious as someone who would speak up in English. So this hit me very close to home. And, we're here to highlight her story and to provide any type of encouragement, any type of support to the Guillén family. So I know, Brianne, do you want to go ahead and?
Sure. And thank you, Paulina, for sharing. I guess I just want to open up even by saying, so this is unfortunately it happens more often, than we would like to admit. Again, thank you for speaking up. I'm obviously very open about it as well for anyone who knows me or has heard. Again, I feel like this is something that we feel is a burden we have to carry. It's something that's shameful. It makes us feel ugly, disgusting, less than, and it has nothing to do with us, right? So I think it is a very hard conversation. Maritza, I think you're doing a good job of helping us moderate this, but it is very hard to discuss. It is something that shouldn't be taboo. Back in 2016, the percentages or even just the statistics are that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused before they reach the age of 18. And so to think about that, again, it's devastating that our children are not safe even before they reach adulthood with something, so precious as, being able to give yourself in an intimate way is then taken, someone's innocence is just, mind-boggling. And particularly here in the United States, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men in the United States have been raped in their lifetime. So again, it's a harsh reality. We were talking about how does life, change as a Latina as you get older. And for me, it was, I grew up being a tomboy. I grew up, hanging with the boys. Like that was just who I felt more comfortable with. And that was just my personality. So it's again difficult to say it in a very public platform, but I was sexually abused as a child by my stepdad. And again, it was something we never talked about. It would just happen, and it happened for years on end. So being able to be raised religious and, with strong spirituality, I thought, no, you know what, I'm going to save myself to have a good, strong, relationship and healthy relationship. And, I think the expectation and those stereotypes we were talking about earlier is that Latina are over sexualized. If we have a pretty face or we decide to wear a dress, it becomes that, oh, we're doing it for attention rather than hell, just because I was feeling good that day, And so it's this harsh, damned if we do, damned if we don't. It's a really hard line that we are expected to walk and to do both and to be all things. And in reality, again, so many women we're talking about here, just having that self-acceptance that, no, it's okay. Like my past doesn't have to define me. To move forward is really difficult. And so I say that as a child being sexually abused, that didn't stop. I have 5 to 6 other stories. So even being, again, one of very few women, the only Latina in my engineering classes, I was date raped by a classmate. Funny enough, I thought I was safe. I was talking to a friend of his, like, we were casually dating. I felt like, oh, this is my group of friends. Like, they get me, they know me. Like, I don't have to worry about anything. And again, knowing my past, I've always been paranoid since the age of 11. I'm always very conscious, very, diligent. And all it takes is, a blink of an eye for someone to put something in your drink, for you to not even think, oh yeah, I have to watch my drink around my friends. And I woke up the next morning and couldn't explain anything. So it's these type of things where it's a harsh reality. I tried talking to people at my university. Nothing was done. Nothing happened. I will say again, not that it always has a play in it, but again, being from South Texas, I kind of know that this is the rule of the land. But he was a white man, again, maybe a couple of years older than me. And I was a Hispanic, brown girl. So the harsh reality, again, growing up in South Texas, I would hear these stories of, women having an affair with the wrong man. It, would tarnish his reputation. And the next thing you heard was, a woman being found in the river. And so it's happened too long. We cannot continue this. We have to hold each other accountable. As we were saying, you see someone, getting yelled at on the side of the street, pull your car over and say, hey, I'm going to sit here and wait with you until you feel safe. It's these little things where we have to look out for each other. It's not just one person's job. As Paulina was mentioning, everyone's safety is all of our job. So make sure that you do know of resources. Again, if your university, we have, again, ways of the law to protect you. So if you don't get the right answer, you don't feel safe getting the first round, keep asking other people, tell people about it, your close friends, your family members, because again, something like Vanessa's story should not be the reality as often as it is. So again, we will continue to share resources. If you ever need anyone to talk to, obviously all of us ladies are here. Our DMs are open. And personally, again, I know people feel more comfortable just understanding someone who's been there, who has those questions, in particular in the workforce, right? Like I said, I have my own story similar to Paulina. It becomes a joke at first. Oh, just make my sandwich, or oh, you look good today. And it's still sexual harassment, however small or however much of a joke you can nod off or laugh off. I actually nervously laugh. And so it becomes just my reaction when I'm fuming inside. And then similarly, again, coworkers take it too far. Inappropriate touching is, again, against the law. No one can make you do anything against your will or what you don't feel comfortable with. So again, I know this is a really hard conversation. We want to make sure everyone watching this, man, woman, non-binary, that, you are in control and you can be the only one that makes that choice. So please speak out, stand up for yourself, regardless of how difficult it may seem.
Thank you, Brianne. You're very brave to share your experiences and your stories with us and with the audience. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience that at such a young age. With sexual harassment, definitely it's unacceptable. And this type of behavior especially in the US military, women that sign up to defend our country, to protect me and my family, should not be in a situation where they're being sexually harassed or to the point where they're being murdered by, within the US military. So let's go ahead and go with Valeria.
Well, first of all, I think it's amazing that we're using this platform to continue this conversation. I've actually never really talked about my experience to anybody other than just like my immediate family and my boyfriend. So when I heard about Vanessa, I could understand the hesitation of just being scared, especially when it's your own industry and just you don't know how it's going to affect your career, because no matter what, like the way that society talks about it, like it's still our fault somehow. And with that in my, like, knowing that, it made it even harder. I'm like, why would it just be perceived as like, oh, she was just looking for it, oh, they were out at a bar, like they were drunk, whatever. And it took me a really long time to be like, no, this was not your fault. It's not your fault that you're outgoing and that you'd like to have a conversation and that some guy got drunk and just tried to take advantage. It truly isn't. So like I mentioned, I think it's so empowering and so powerful that we're getting together to provide resources and maybe helping others speak up, because it can be scary, especially if you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with your career, if you're going to get labeled or just marked with an A or any of that. So that's just a little bit about my story.
Thank you for sharing. I could definitely see the hesitation that any person would have to speak up, especially at work when your career is on the line. And it's very mind-blowing to even think that a victim would even, run the risk of losing their career, their job, by someone else doing harm to them. So I could definitely understand that perspective. And we're definitely here to give you guys, as Paulina mentioned before, steps in how to approach this type of situation. Hopefully you never have to go through it. But if you do, you will have the resources, and you could also connect with Engineering Gals. You can connect with the panelists to get any type of information. If you need a mentor, if you need to talk about it, please reach out. So let's go ahead and move on to the STEM community. So as all of you guys are aware, Engineering Gals is an online social media network full of engineers. We have Black women who are STEM influencers. We have Asians that are Asians that are STEM influencers, and we also have our Latinas in our community. So with that being said, as a Latina STEM influencer, what is your experience in the tech STEM community? And we'll go ahead and start with Paulina.
So for myself, entering into the STEM field as soon as I graduated as a safety engineer consultant, traveling all over the world or the United States, I instantly figured out, very similar to all of you ladies' story, that I'm very different than a lot of people. I have an accent. My last name, Castellón, sounds very different. My personality is different. And I started to realize that, wow, this is a male-dominated field. There's tons of men, and I only work with men. And if I did work with women, specifically in the environmental health and safety world, none of them were Latinas. So I felt very alone. Once I left that consulting and I moved to the Silicon Valley, I thought, yes, diversity. I'm going back to California. But I was shocked. Even working in tech in the Silicon Valley in Northern California, I was still, once again, the only Latina. And I thought to myself, when is this going to change? Well, let me move back to Southern California in aerospace. Now I'm in upper management, and it's even slimmer. Once again, the only woman and the only Latina. So there's a pattern here. And this pattern is something that I actually talked about in my Engineering Gals Takeover. As you grow in your career as Latinas, I've noticed the percentage, our number, goes down. We want to motivate and encourage those in the Latinx community to go into STEM, but to continue to stay in STEM. I myself now work in upper management, and in upper management, I work with only men, and I want to see more of mi gente there at the table. We're here to provide you those resources, that motivation, that inspiration, that encouragement. I know it's hard as a Latina myself. When you look around, it can be intimidating. I am human. Believe me, I may sound strong. I may sound confident. I may sound like I have it all together, but I have my days too. When you're sitting in the room at the 8 o'clock morning meeting and nobody there looks like you, nobody there believes in you. You have your curly hair, your pink nails, your lip gloss, and they think, who is this girl? But remember, you are strong. You are powerful. You are amazing. And you deserve to be in that room. And this is something that I tell myself every day. It's almost like imposter syndrome, right? I deserve to be in that room. And I think we've all kind of heard of that term, encountered that term, and are learning that term. So if you're watching this today, just remember, this number of Latinas needs to grow. We're here to help you. We're here paving that future for you. So I hope to see more of my Latinos, my Latinx community in the tech field, and tech needs to do better. We need more diversity because at the end of the day, representation matters, you guys.
Yes, representation matters. And I am so, so happy that all of you guys are taking a stance and being a STEM influencer, because sometimes you need to see someone that looks like you so you could believe that you could become that as well. And I am a true believer of that. That's the whole reason why we even started Engineering Gals. We needed to see more women to be engineers, to become engineers, to go to engineering school. And as we grew Engineering Gals, it's extremely important to me as a founder to make sure that our community is diverse. To have Black women, to have Latinas, to have the minorities, because we need to increase the percentage of minorities in the engineering industry. So I am just like, you don't know how happy my heart is just to see all of you guys just thrive and just, you know, create your own brand and, you know, thrive in the social media community, because the young girls, they need to see you, they need to hear you, they need to watch you, they need to subscribe to your YouTube channel. That's how I see it. So I know, Valeria, you had also something to say. Oh, I'm sorry. It's actually Fernanda. Fernanda, go ahead.
Yeah, so similar experience with Paulina. As I said, I live in Connecticut, and there's less Hispanic here, and like you see less Hispanic people in STEM. So in my graduating class for chemical engineering, we were only 2 Latinas, and yeah, like I'm very social. I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from talking to people, and I love like talking to people and like sharing my homework and like come and like let's do it together. And then like being in there, and like before I met her, it was even worse, right? Like I didn't have friends and I didn't feel like I was fitting in. At the end, like now that I graduated, I did make friends. I did share with them, but it wasn't the same, you know, like with this one girl, it was like we had a support system with each other. Like I knew that I can come with her, and like, because I have a son too, right? So like, and I was pregnant in my junior year of college. So like when I had my baby, she was there to help me a lot, like all the class that I missed, the homework, and like all the things that the professor had to say, like she helped me a lot. And then she was in a lot of conference and stuff like that, so like, you know, I will help her too. And I remember, because I did go to university when I was in El Salvador, and when I was in there, everybody was my support system, right? And now, yeah, I came here and it wasn't like that, so I did experience that. And also I've had jobs and the same thing, and now I'm gonna start my PhD. And we are only 3 people starting a PhD in chemical engineering at Yale, and 2 of them are Chinese, and 2 guys are Chinese, and me. There's no other Latino, I think. Well, there's 2 Brazilians in the whole department, but like, I mean, they don't speak Spanish, you know. So it's like I do feel like it was just me, but not then. When I started sharing all of my experiences online on Instagram, I have met all of you guys, so many women in engineering, so many Latinas in STEM, and that's the support system that I wanted, and now it's here. And even though we don't have the same job or like we don't go to the same school, we're always helping each other. Like every time I need something, I'll text them. I'm like, okay, I need help with physics or whatever. I'll text this girl, or I know this girl does this, like I need help with my resume, whatever. So like, and they're there. So like, I really love being out there and putting myself out there because I got to know you guys.
Oh, thank you, Fernanda. That was so sweet of you. Yeah, I mean, overall, just, amplifying and highlighting Latinas in STEM is extremely important. Like I mentioned before, I knew a few years back when we first started, I was looking to diversify our features, and I featured Paulina a few years ago, and I was like, Paulina, you have to become a STEM influencer. We need you. We need a Latina safety engineer over here. And now that, our network has grown to over 10,000 followers, members within our network, it's extremely diverse. I'm just so happy to see, a thriving Latina STEM influencer, and to make sure that, opportunities are being given to you guys, any type of sponsorship, partnerships, make sure that those opportunities are passed down to the minorities in STEM that need to be online. You guys need to be highlighting your life, because you guys are inspiring literally the next generation of Latinas to become engineers. So I'm like so excited for all of you guys to be part of it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So do you have an unconscious bias, limited beliefs against yourself as a Latina in the STEM community? And let's go ahead with Gina.
Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to talk about first is just the unconscious bias in other people, right? So that's something that we can't really control, and it's still going on. And companies are doing a lot of things to try to mitigate that through just like exams you can take and just trainings. And we're doing well. Like, I mean, we're progressing, but I mean, there's a path that we still have to take, and it's going to take a while. But one thing that we can do right now is deal with the unconscious bias that we have for ourselves, right? So I don't think I would usually think myself as, a non-confident person or a person who doesn't speak up, because I like speaking out. I like being outgoing. But from then and being, in aerospace with, older white men, and then even, in automotive, just being with full of men, no women, just made me realize that I really limited myself in a lot of senses. The first one is, how the hell am I going to make a connection with you? How? You're a person that grew up in the middle of nowhere. You go fishing. I'm from the desert. You don't speak Spanish. You don't even know my food. You have children. I'm not even married. So I think I placed a lot of limitations in myself as to like, how the hell am I going to make a connection with you? And that stopped me, from creating, meaningful connections with people that I could have. And I think that's something that was, my lack of self-awareness. I wasn't really aware. And one thing that I encourage you to do is just to make connections with everybody. If they don't come from the same background, even better. You get to learn a new culture, learn where they come from, because at the end of the day, your coworkers and your management, they're the ones who make the decisions for your career. In some cases, like your bonuses, your compensation, so many things that, matter to you. So you want to make those connections with your peers, to learn about what they're doing, to become better at your job. And I think when I took down those barriers, I realized that I was always afraid of seeming too out there, like seeming too aggressive, seeming too confident, too presumida, too whatever. I can go on just seeming something. But why should that matter? Like, why should that matter? I'm being myself. I'm being authentic. And I'm just sharing what I have inside of me. Why should I be afraid of what you're gonna think. It's me, and it's up to you how you want to take it, and it talks about you how you receive it, not me. So even when I work with people who have 20 years of experience or a lot of experience. I'm still working on this, by the way. I have a hard time just speaking out because I'm just like, how am I going to contribute to this conversation if you know everything? But I'll share with you that you have a unique life that no one has lived. You have unique experiences that no one knows about. So when you share those, you're diversifying the thought. You're bringing new ideas, bringing new innovation, and that's what we need. That's what companies are paying to have. So don't be afraid. Just share your light. And I mean, I know it takes a lot, but with time, just practice it, and with that, you'll become better and better of it. And yeah, we're all here to support you in that journey.
Yes, thank you, Gina. Thank you for talking about unconscious bias that other people have against the Latinx community. I think I could definitely relate to that. When like I said earlier, I grew up in a very, Latino community. I was never really, I didn't really have white friends or anything like that until I got to college. And then when I moved into a college house, all my roommates, they were all, white, and it was a very unique experience for me because I think I had unconscious bias about others, and I had to stop and reflect within myself. And I'm like, okay, why am I thinking about this, about these people? Why? It's something that, it's inside me. And I kind of had to I was living with these people. They're my friends. They were my only friends because, I was brand new at the university. So I kind of had to internalize and reflect within myself to really realize, why do I have unconscious bias about these people? So I really had to, internalize inside and evaluate my thoughts. And, I kind of went through that experience. And then obviously now, years later, I'm 100% comfortable with all kinds of diversity. Specifically, my college experience was just an overall growth as a person. But something, if I have unconscious bias within myself, I actually don't. I never grew up. I know people talk about imposter syndrome. So it's similar to this. If you've experienced imposter syndrome, just simply for the fact that you are Latina, just because you identify as Latina, do you experience any type of imposter syndrome? And I personally, I've never felt that way before. Actually, as if people believe I can't do this, I actually try 3 times harder to prove to them and to prove to myself that I actually can do the things or assignments at work or at the university as well. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. And let's go ahead and move on to the next question that states, have you experienced imposter syndrome? If so, how did you overcome that? So let's go ahead and start with Brianne.
Sure. So I love, again, that we obviously have diversity within our own panel here. I know, as you were mentioning, Maritza, simply just having the conversation about growing up confident and being willing to have a voice. As Gina was mentioning, it's kind of why is that such a bad thing? Here we are trying to promote this. But what's funny is, as women, again, we're kind of trained in this societal domestication of we're supposed to be kind and quiet and sweet. And then when we see one of our own out there, doing her thing, then all of a sudden we're like, who does she think she is? We're the first ones to be like, whoa. And so it's interesting because I'm in the exact same way. And that's why I think I was raised, again, as, 4th generation American, you can achieve your dreams. My mom pushed, hey, America cares about college. So that's what you're doing. And so I was just very much raised with limitless opportunities. My mom and my momo would sit me down and talk to me about, if you want to be a doctor and you want to be a singer and you want to be a photographer, you can make it all happen. And they would, just really allow me to dream big and show me ways, help me walk me through the logic of how I could make that all happen. So again, here I am breaking the stereotype of what, South Texas thought I was able to do, again, based on those stereotypes, the labels. And so then it became well, I have all these big dreams. So, is that not allowed? Am I not allowed to do those things? Because, I wasn't into Girl Scouts. I was into the math and science. I would go to the local community college and, learn how to make slime and casts and you name it. And so it was always just this back and forth. Like, this is what I really want to do, but then I'm told like I'm not allowed, or that I'm not belonging here, you know? So I think that imposter syndrome side then really just kind of, you know, what is right? What am I supposed to do? What, you know, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Like, this is who I am, but it apparently doesn't fit into these boxes I'm supposed to be trying to be squished into. And I think, again, as many of us talk about, just that sense of self-acceptance, you know, I actually got laid off from my manufacturing job, and y'all, I'm a nerd for manufacturing. I don't want to do anything else. I love Six Sigma. I'm all about lean. I am in automotive manufacturing where there are not many women, and I just live it, breathe it. And so then when I got laid off, I thought, well, there's nothing else I want to do, you know, and again, I'm passionate about many other things, but like an engineer is what I worked hard for. Like, that is in my soul. And so, again, that imposter syndrome is the story, that limiting beliefs of, well, you know, I've always had this dream in my heart, and, you know, I don't know where it came from, but I had this dream in my heart that I was going to be a big boss and international. I was going to hire consultants to learn to be like me, to ask a million questions, because I'm just curious, you know, around the world around me. And as I continued to do that, I started asking these questions. You know, I was actually on a trip for my birthday, something. And I think, again, the more that you start achieving these goals, these dreams that you never thought were possible, I got laid off at, you know, 26. And I'm thinking, man, you know, I would have never imagined this. I had my dream job. I was traveling the world. From my job, traveling the world, I was actually in Spain for my birthday. And I just thought that was literally my bucket list. Like, I just thought that was it. Like, my life was made if I could travel internationally. And I thought, well, crap, if I can do this young, like, what else am I capable of? Right. So being able to just start opening that box again and really overcome that, to dream big. Again, and I think the imposter syndrome comes into effect when we start listening to the voices around us, the people who are fearful, and they put their fears on you. And so, like I said, as soon as I started opening that box, I thought, well, hell, I have this dream of being an international consultant. I got to start somewhere, right? But in my head, I had to say I had to have an important title. I needed to be VP of operations or COO, or at least director of engineering. I at least had to have that. And then I thought, well, again, the things I'm a nerd for, you know, some people hate. I love audits, assessments, being able to come in and look at a space and like, how can I make it tidier? Or do you even have work instructions, like a step-by-step process? How do you quality control this? And that's the stuff I really enjoy. And I thought, again, let me just start, small. I don't have to be, again, a millionaire the first year, but I want to be able to help people. Like, this is something that brings joy to me. They always ask, if you could do something, you know, for free and do it for the rest of your life, what would that be? And this is engineering. So being able to start my own consulting firm, again, at 27 years old, I've been in business for 3 years now. Additionally, being an international speaker, sharing my story, having hard conversations with you ladies, and helping people overcome the bad kind of hard baggage that they've been carrying. So again, I think as soon as you start opening the box of like, what are your dreams made of? You know, like, what's just the craziest, coolest thing you could do? And I'll even be honest, one of mine is like to go live in a treehouse in the middle of nowhere, right? Like, and not everyone has to understand that. That's, you know, what the beautiful gift, the uniqueness that I was given. So I challenge all of you watching, all of you ladies already know, you know, we can just vibe on this forever. But really just to open yourself outside of the beliefs of other people, the fears of other people, because that's where the imposter syndrome starts to set in, is when we think we're either too big, you know, for our dreams, or we're not enough. And the reality is you are, and we can always continue to grow. You can learn a new skill set. You can be connected with the right people. And it makes a huge difference to have people cheering you on. So again, shout out to all you ladies. I know we were saying just finding each other was beautiful. And all of you, right, in the chat, watching this after, even if you're not in the live, but we're all here for each other. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, just as Brianne, it seems like me and Brianne, we have never experienced imposter syndrome. So I don't know how to overcome that, because I've never felt that way. But to any other panelists, have you guys experienced imposter syndrome? Anyone? Gina, Paulina, Valeria, Fernanda? Have you guys experienced it? So if you guys have, then how did you overcome that? Let's go ahead and start with Valeria. Valeria?
So for me, it was actually when I started working at where I'm currently working now. Yesterday on the takeover, I mentioned I was not a straight A student. I thought school was really hard. So when I landed the internship, which ultimately turned into where I got hired full time, like at the time, it was only top of their class, people that went to Princeton, Ivy League, and I'm over here like, okay, I went to a state school. Like, how did I get in? I don't have straight A's. I know there's definitely smarter people out there. And then when I found out who I beat out of the internship, I was like, what? There's no way. No. But my first few days just starting there, I was like, no, like I don't belong here. Like, are you sure that they picked the right person? So it definitely took a lot of like self-talk, self-reflecting, looking at myself in the mirror, giving myself that pep talk in the car in the morning and being like, no, like you're here because like you deserve it, because they saw something in you. Maybe it wasn't your grades, but you had the personality or you had that leadership skill that the other people lacked. And believe it or not, like companies hire you based off the vibe too. If you vibe with them, then they'll work with you. And that was something that I had to understand and just almost like get over. But I had to give myself that pep talk. Like, no, you belong here. You are here. And at the time, and for the longest time, I was also the only Latina engineer in the office until just recently. And it's been almost 5 years. So pep talks.
Pep talks. There we go. Pep talks. Let's go with Paulina.
Yeah, so this one actually hits home and it's quite recent. I recently got offered a wonderful upper management position as an environmental health and safety specialist with Lockheed Martin. But let's go way back. I've been applying to Lockheed Martin, for years, okay? I've applied over 25 times. Like, I can't tell you how many times. And every day I got that email that said, we went with another candidate. 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 And I kept still applying. I kept saying, I want to just get in. I want to get in. I've worked with Lockheed. I've worked with Boeing. I've worked with NASA. But what would it be like to sit with the cool kids at the table, right? Now, I don't have to do it, but it was my own personal challenge. The day that I got the email that said, we want to interview you, I deleted the email because I didn't believe it. I thought I was being catfished. The recruiter called me and she said, did you get the email? We want to schedule you for an interview. And I thought, oy, Dios mío, oh my God, this is real right now. I did the interview. The interview was to be 30 minutes and it went in an hour. And just like Valeria said, they pick up on your vibe. They loved my energy. They loved my vibe. They loved my experience. They loved my work ethics in manufacturing because I love manufacturing. And instantly, when I got off that interview, the phone call, I thought, this is not real. I'm waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out and say, you got punked. I'm waiting for someone to pull the rug underneath my feet. And it comes with pep talks and it comes with your inner circle. My own group of friends had to put me in my place and check me and say, Ándale, nena, Paulina, you deserve this. You've worked so hard for this. Those nights when you sacrifice your hangouts, the parties, you're studying late nights, second shifts, working tremendous hours. I deserve this. And still to this day, because I'm going into work on Monday, I'm still a little nervous. I'm still a little shaky. But when I walked into the first office a few days ago to get my badge, to take my photos, to do my fingerprint, I had to take a look around and just remind myself, I deserve this. This is mine. I did this. There was no handouts. There was no one of a personal connection. I did it just by a simple hard work of emailing recruiters myself. I did it by being consistent and pushing myself. So yes, with imposter syndrome still at my age, at 29, here I am saying, I don't think I can do it. I did it. You can do it. And even if they told you no back then, no doesn't mean no in the future. If that's your dream, go for it. And believe me, I got one dream, but my next one is going to be way bigger. Brianna, I'm going to see you in the consulting business, my love. I'm excited for it. So if anyone's feeling that, just know that you can do it. I promise you this. I promise you can do it. That's a little story.
So the ongoing theme is pep talks. That's how you overcome imposter syndrome. Fernanda?
So yeah, I experience it as well. Like if I tell these to the people that know me, like my friends, they will be like, no, like you don't, because I don't show it. As Paulina was saying, like people think I'm like super confident. Like I always have given that vibe, and ever since I was young. But actually, like I wasn't confident enough, and as Gina was saying as well, like I didn't want to give my opinion sometimes because I felt like maybe I had something to say, but like somebody was smarter. So like I always felt like, no, I'm not gonna say it. Maybe they're gonna analyze it and I'm gonna say something dumb. So I didn't want to do it. And like now I have work on myself and I feel definitely more confident. But you have no idea, like at the beginning when I started my college experience, I used to cry so much. I was like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not like this enough, like I was like, okay, like some people, they're not super smart but they're so cute, and so like they have something, and I felt like I didn't have anything. And I was like, this is what I'm good at, but like what else am I gonna do? Like I'm not good at anything else. So I always I used to feel so sad, and like I used to compare myself a lot. That was one thing that, oh my God, I did it so much, and like it was killing me. I'm gonna cry, but like it was killing me because I was always like, and I had a 4.0 GPA in engineering school for so long, and it was killing me. I I cannot even okay. Because I used to tell my sister and my husband, and I was like, what did you have? Like I'll compare myself so much. And then I just like starting accepting myself, and I started accepting like, okay, like I like English is my second language. I had a baby, like there's so many things that I try, but I maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was still good. So I mean, I'm crying because I'm happy that I used to be so sad because of that before, and now I just feel so confident. So like if you're feeling that way, you're not alone, and you have to work on yourself because we're so unique, and that's what we need. We're not gonna be perfect in everything we do, but like you're unique, and that's what's valuable about you.
Oh, thank you, Fernanda. I think I loved what you said. Don't compare yourself to other people. You are in your own journey, in your own lane. That is what is unique about you. The other people on the sidelines, on the side of your eyes, they don't matter. You cannot compare I think that's something that I probably had the struggle of going through as well. It's like, I can't compare myself to the entire internet. I'm going to drive myself crazy if I keep doing that. So I realized, in my young adult life that, I am the designer of my own lane. I am the designer. I set my goals, not based off society's goals or off of someone else's life. I set my own goals. And thank you so much for sharing that intimate story of yours. And I think Brianne had some resources that she would like to share with us all.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, Maritza, everyone's talking about the pep talk or even just having that community of support. And if you don't already belong to an organization like SHIP or NSBE or SWE, the Society of Women Engineers, Society of Hispanics in STEM, National Black Society of Engineers, there's so many organizations. And even within the technical organizations, ASME for mechanical engineers, BS, for biomedical engineers, again, just find your community because there are so many resources through organizations. Student organizations, professional organizations. And again, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to make those connections and introductions, because again, like a lot of times it's hard to give yourself those pep talks, especially when you feel like you're hitting your head against a brick wall. So again, it makes a difference to have that network, that community, and the list of, again, resources and organizations that are there to make sure that you are successful is limitless. So let me know, let us know. We're all here to help.
Yeah, most definitely. You could definitely join the Engineering Gals Network as well. We are a massive network of engineers all over social media, and we're always here to support you and hear you out. If you guys ever want to schedule any Google Hangouts on one-on-one, my DMs are always open. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. And this is a pretty exciting question. How can we increase the Latina representation within the STEM community? So let's go ahead and go with Gina.
Yes, so anybody who knows me knows I'm super passionate about this. It just makes me so happy to keep bringing women. And part of my answer, so I have 3 ways we can do so. And part of my answer I'll share in the next question. But the first one is to rebrand STEM. And we all have a say in how we do this. But I think through society's lens, it's viewed as like looking down, solving problems or equations. But things like this and sharing our story talk about the why. How does the work that we do impact the society that we live in? You know, women are driven to do things to help other people, to make a greater impact, and engineers make a greater impact. We just haven't sold it like that yet, right? So when we are sharing our stories, I encourage you to talk about your why, talk the impact that you want to have in this world and the people around you. And I think that's the first way. The second way is instilling the growth mindset. And so we don't get a lot of, this type of education, at least, for my end, but there's a lot of psychological things that we're not raised to learn. So I encourage you to dive into yourself and really try to become as self-aware as you can. And so with that education comes leaving the fear of failure. Because with a growth mindset, failure is just a way to learn, right? So let's stop putting limitations on ourselves and saying, oh, you're good at math. Oh no, I could never be good at math, or I could never look good doing that. No, you could do that. So whatever you think you could do, you can do. So those are 2 of the ways, and I'll share my next one in the next question.
Thank you, Gina. The next one is Fernanda. How can we increase the Latina representation within the STEM community?
Okay, so my first one will be to the girls that are right now in STEM, and feel confident talking about it. We should work and be like role models for the new girls, because one thing that it's super important, as Gina was saying, it's like there's a lot of hesitation, like, oh, like I don't want to go into engineering because this and that, but then like you see somebody that looks like you and maybe is going through the same obstacles or went through the same obstacles that you think you're gonna go through. So I think that's super important. Then like creating supporting community, so like programs in universities or like in social media, different programs, and then help Latinas giving the necessary resources to succeed. Because one thing it's like bringing Latinas into STEM, but another thing it's like retention, right? So because sometimes like you go through these obstacles and you don't know what to do, and they don't have these resources, and sometimes we think like, okay, like everybody knows, like for example, I'm very good with scholarships. Because I didn't want loans, so I always applied to like so many scholarships, and they were small, big, like whatever. And I always thought like, oh yeah, everybody does that, but like people actually don't, and they don't know that not all scholarships are based on your merits. Sometimes it's like financial need, or they're targeted to like women or Latinas, blah blah blah. So like, it's good to share these things with them, so we can increase retention. And then another thing is that show them that there are cool jobs, cool things that you can do in STEM, because sometimes it might seem boring, like, oh, engineering, like I have to dress up very ugly and do boring things, but it's not always the case. So yeah, that will be like showing everybody that it's cool.
Yeah, Fernanda, I know you just joined TikTok, and I love your informative TikTok videos that you talk about scholarships and how to apply to them, and all this, information is extremely important to the community. Overall, just like how to fund your education. I think that was like the biggest question I had when I started going to school, because as first generation American, my family hadn't, they had not acquired generational wealth. So my family didn't have the money to put me through college. So I had to put myself through college, and finding scholarships and going through that is extremely, extremely important. And I love your presence on TikTok and how much information you share within our STEM community. So let's go ahead and go on with our next question. That is, how can a community like Engineering Gals how can we support you and your efforts? Let's go ahead and start with Gina.
Yes, so I think you guys are doing amazing things. So thank you so much for putting this together and just letting us use this platform just to share our stories, because I think a big part of it is creating role models. As we were mentioning earlier, you always have to see someone, that has done it, because we approach things differently, as women, as Hispanics. And when you don't see that, you have no idea how to do it, because it doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't, speak to you in the way that you want to do it. So another thing is just having your own support group. So I read an article, that successful women always have a little group of women that they could go back to and share their experiences, share their struggles, share, their dreams. So I encourage you to find that circle, within, your friends and communities, university organizations, or pages such as Engineering Gals.
I said, thank you so much, Gina. That means so much to us. Let's go ahead and go with Fernanda.
Same as Gina, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you guys. Thank you, Marita and Amy, to create Engineering Girls, because actually you guys are one of the reasons why I started sharing and sharing content on STEM and to helping people and using my social media. Because when I found out about you guys and I started seeing that you showcase people first, you guys, I think you guys you were the first ones on social media to showcase me, and I was like, oh wow, I felt so important, right? So I feel like all these girls that maybe are not doing it, they feel encouraged to start doing it, and then I started meeting other girls and looking at other profiles, and I started getting ideas, and I was like, okay, I want to do something similar. So definitely keep doing what you're doing and doing these lives are so informative, and thank you.
Oh, thanks, Fernanda. I remember actually when we were messaging way back, I don't know, it was 2 years ago or something. And I'm like, Fernanda, do a takeover. And I was so impressed by you. You're like, oh, I do it Princeton, chemical engineering. You're from El Salvador. And I was like, that's where my mom's from. So it was a genuine connection. And then when you took over and you're so informative and you're sharing all these amazing resources. And that's exactly what we envisioned, me and Amy, when we started Engineering Gals, when we started back in 2016, we would Google engineers on YouTube, and none of them looked like me, and I'm like, where are all the women at, and that was one of our biggest highlights to feature women, to let the community know and let the audience know that there's someone out there who's an engineer that looks just like you, and they've gone through the same journey and the same experience. You might be from the same heritage, and if they could do it, then you could do it too. So it's very, rewarding to just see you guys thrive in this amazing social media network that now we're getting all kinds of opportunities to monetize on these platforms. So let's go ahead and go on with our last topic, which is reflection. So we talked about being a Latina. Who is a Latina? What is the definition of it? We talked about our heritage, our music. We talked about Vanessa Guillén, how we connected to her story. We talked about how we are STEM influencers within the social media community. So now for reflection, what are some struggles and challenges that you face, and what advice would you give your younger self? So let's go ahead and start with Brianne.
Sure. So I think, again, as we were, the whole reflection side, and again, that inner struggle is always going to be there. So I think one is understanding that, you're the only person who can choose either what box you belong in, if you even want to be in a box. And so that our one power in life is that we have a choice. Right? If someone, tells you you look ugly today, you have a choice to either let that hurt your feelings or say thanks, it has nothing to do with me. And so I think with, again, understanding the power that you have within yourself, a lot of times as we allow the outside world, external situations, happen to us, rather than us choosing how we are going to react to anyone, to the rest of the world, to a job, to what you think I'm capable of. Because again, like I said, I just always thought, and I was raised, to be confident in myself, but the world around me told that wasn't necessary. So I began to be small. And so I think that was my biggest struggle, is I was trying to, again, that sense of fitting in, but knowing that I was different, really accepting and loving myself for who I was. And I think the sooner that we come to that realization, understanding that you have a choice and that you can be intentional with that. Again, as Jenny was mentioning, the growth mindset, like you can continue to grow however big. You are not limited. Our amazing body that we were given, it has so much functionality to it within our own brains, our brain and our mind still grows every day. So with all of that, I'd say, my struggles in particularly were against sexism, just not getting why people treated me so much less than, or people would talk to me like I was stupid. My fiance is a civil engineer. We are both in a, diversity engineering organization. I would have a great idea and say, hey, we should be doing this, for outreach or mentorship, or like we should do marketing, like let people know about, all the great things we're doing. And people would just be like dead silent in crickets. And he would say the exact same thing and get like a standing ovation. And I was just like, this has to like you see this, right? And at first he would be like, well, it's your delivery. And I'm like, we literally use the exact same words. So it's that type of thing where it's a struggle, because it kills me of knowing like I have great ideas. And if I was a man, right, like Taylor Swift's song, it would be received so differently. So understanding that there may be a barrier, right, someone else's unconscious bias, but not allowing it to stop me, to keep pushing through. I may not have made it yet. People may not get it yet. But again, I can make that choice, continuing to grow within even the Hispanic and Latino, like machismo is a thing. And I can choose whether or not to do business with those people, to let them bother me, or again, just to make it happen anyway. Disrespect, pay discrimination. Again, I think, again, from an engineering standpoint, coming to the table, understanding what we're working with is first and foremost. We have to set that foundation. You have to know, the field you're coming on to play in, right? And so again, if it's corporate America, like there are going to be these rules you have to understand, but at the same time, you can choose, I'm going to go do my own thing. I don't have to put up with this. But if you are going to play the game, understand what we can bend, or how we can, what the rules are expected of us, so that way we can use it to our advantage. So make sure that we're always very conscious of that, because those struggles are real. You'll feel like you're just pushing and pushing, and I'm doing the same thing everyone else is doing. And in reality, that may not be the case. So, for me, like I said, the pay discrimination was a huge one. I had an internship every year, including my freshman year. So when I graduated, I had 3+ years of experience. Again, I was on all these leadership roles. I was doing all the right things. Hell, I was, counseling and helping my own, peers with resume reviews and coaching them through phone interviews. And yet, when I got to industry, a guy who had zero anything put like an organization just because he would go have pizza and beer, and he was getting paid $15,000 to $20,000 more a year than me. So it's those type of things of, knowing the stats, knowing, again, that the higher up in leadership you go, the lesser we are represented. Don't let that stop you. Again, if anything, let it motivate you. So any type of struggle or challenge, see it as, again, something to really push yourselves, because, we can do this and we are fully capable. And the only person to stop you is yourself. And that's only if you make that decision that you're done with it. So again, there's a lot of challenges and, individual kind of interpersonal struggles that we're having, but make sure that you really believe in yourself and push forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you brought up a really great point, Brianne. The gender wage gap is a huge, huge problem in every single industry at this point. Something that advice I would give to my younger self would be focus on yourself. Do not friends, boyfriends, family. Sometimes you just have to go within, a couple years of focusing on yourself, go to the university, study, get your degree, get your job done. Everyone else around you, they'll still be there. If they love you, they'll be there and they'll encourage you and they'll support you. That's some of the advice that I give to my younger sisters. And the second advice that I would give to my younger sisters is to always negotiate. I'm a huge negotiator. I've been doing this unconsciously since I was 16. Ever since I had my first job, I actually always negotiated, and it was just for the fact that I was paying for my own things. I needed more money, you know, and I've just gone on with that habit overall, like within all different years. So I'm a huge negotiator. If you guys need any tips, or if you guys want to do a Google one-on-one call, let me know. My DMs are always open. So those are the two advice. Focus on yourself and always, always negotiate. Even if you think the offer is amazing, still ask for 7% more. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to the second question. Let's go ahead and move on is how important is self-advocacy, and what are some ways that you have done that for yourself? So I kind of shared my own experience. I self-advocate for my bank account, for my bag. I always negotiate, and that's how I self-advocate for myself. So how do you guys do it? Let's go ahead and start with Paulina.
I love this question. So for myself, after my first job and experiencing sexual harassment, I knew instantly that guess what? As a Latina and as a woman, nobody's going to speak up for me. Nobody's going to talk for me. Nobody's going to fight for me. Nobody was going to push for me. Nobody's going to do anything for me. You know who's going to go out and get it? Me. So instantly after that whole experience, every job I had, and just like, you know, Marisa Brian mentioned, hey, I am the queen of uncomfortable conversations. You go to my work, you go talk to my colleagues, and they always say, Paulina has something to say. Safety, right? I have to check things. But the thing is, this is how I'm going to advocate. This is how we're going to talk about these things. Let's stir up the pot. We're going to talk about pay gap, right? I will talk to my male colleagues and ask them, how much you make? Let's talk about it. Maybe I make more than you, maybe I don't. But this is that going back so we can understand as a woman, as a Latina, what I need to ump myself on my pay. I need to negotiate. I love negotiating. Another thing, discrimination. Believe me, if a male colleague in the room makes something, an inappropriate joke, I won't laugh. I won't laugh. Everybody else will laugh, but everyone will look at me and get the hint very quickly. Hey, that ain't funny. Another thing is machismo. I work in an environment filled with men, and men always got something to say. And believe me, you can be polite and you can do it in a very nice manner by checking someone, letting them know, hey, you know what, that wasn't right, or you shouldn't say that, or the next time we're going to go to HR. Now, I do work heavy along the sides with HR, so I go back and forth. People do always watch what they say with me. However, another thing that I started doing for myself was educating myself, reading more on women's rights, reading more on women's history, participating in peaceful protests and marches. I attended the Women's March last year and this year, and this is something I'm very, very proud of. March for Science. I did that. I'm a big person who will go out on a peaceful protest, on a march, and speak for what I feel is important. For those of you who might even follow my social media, you'll see me talk about current events. You'll see me talk about things of my day-to-day life, things that I'm passionate about. It's putting it out there. Again, having those uncomfortable conversations and bringing it to the table, because this is the time to bring it. It's 2020, and this time we need change, especially coming up in this election in November. I hope all of you guys can go register to vote if you can. It's super important. Once again, let's make change. Let's do things differently. Let's encourage women and all of the gente in the Latinx community to go out and be representatives for all of us. So those are just a few little things that I do, but anyone can go out and do it. Pick up a book, watch a novela, there's documentaries, put on Netflix, talk to your friends, go on Instagram, talk to us here on Engineering Gals. We love to have these conversations. So, yeah.
Thank you, Paulina. Let's go ahead and go with Fernanda. Self-advocacy.
Well, same as Paulina, I was gonna say that I started realizing throughout my academic career that at the beginning I was expecting people to advocate for me, and then I realized that these people might never come, right? So like that's why self-advocacy it's so important. And you know, same at the beginning, I felt like I wasn't confident enough, and I didn't think I was qualified enough. But then I started just putting myself out there, and sometimes I wasn't even like fully prepared, but just to put yourself out there and to advocate for yourself, then you get things that you never imagined. And not only to tell people like, hey, I can do it, but also by like applying to the opportunities that you think that you're not capable of, and then you have to like change that mindset and just do it, because there's so many opportunities that I've had that there have been great and I almost didn't do it, you know. And for example, like I remember when I transferred from the community college to a four-year college, I actually wanted to apply to MIT. And then I said, because I had the grades, I had great grades, and I had a lot of internship experience, and I had so many things with me. But then I was like, no, like I'm just gonna waste money in the application, and they're not gonna accept me. And then like I just didn't do it, so I will never know. And then now I applied to Yale, which is a great school, and also it's in Connecticut, which is great for me because I have my family here. And then, but I was thinking like, oh, maybe no, like maybe I'm not gonna get it, but I still did it, and I paid for the application and I got it. So yeah, advocate for yourself, definitely.
Oh my God, Fernanda, I am so proud of you. And I'm so proud that you're within the STEM community. Like you're doing amazing, amazing things. And you're such a great role model for anyone looking into going into chemical engineering, and even just being an immigrant coming to the US and going to these prestige Ivy League schools. It's so inspiring. And I'm so happy for you and your family too. I mean, you're like a superwoman. Literally a superwoman. So let's go ahead and move on to our next question. What would you like people to know about Latinas, or about being Latina that doesn't often get talked about? So let's go ahead and start with Gina.
Yeah, so I think one thing for ourselves is that we don't consider the amount of time that we have to self-reflect. And I think respecting that journey for other people is something that everyone needs to know. There's a lot of things that are not, you know, according to corporate rules, culture, or even, you know, at policy level. So there's a lot of things that you navigate, you know, in your Hispanic, with your Hispanic background, such as one thing that, or I'm going to name a couple of things that I learned that I didn't know until I started working. And one of them, it was a value instilled in me, is that we're taught to respect older people and not challenging them, right? So that's a huge thing, that when going into industry, it's like, oh, is this why I don't, you know, challenge them, because I'm used to it and I'm educated this way, right? Another thing, you know, as a lot of us come from immigrant parents or are immigrants, is success was the expectation. We are not taught to fail, right? So understanding that, and just all of the things that we're not aware of, that we're navigating through, and not feeling like you belong in either community, either to your Latin background or to the American one, sharing your emotions in a healthy way. I know this is a thing that men navigate a lot. You know, they don't feel they have the permission to be vulnerable, to be open, to share their experiences. And yeah, and the last thing is that when you choose yourself, you're sometimes you're seen as selfish, right? So in the Hispanic culture, it's like it's always a collective thing of what's best for the family, what's best, and that's very different for American culture. And I mean, we're here to do the best we can and achieve everything that we can. So it sucks to be seen as, you know, somebody who is selfish, but we have to live with that. So I think other cultures, or even men, may not understand that, but it's something that we're going through, and I think we should be respected for it. So and I think all of those go under just the self-exploration of who you are, what brings it to you. And I know I had discussed with Brianne that I feel there's not enough research yet. I think it's just, you know, starting, you know, as a new emerging, marvelous, you know, culture in the United States, and it's going to be Latino women, you know, all the way. But it's not, I think it's not something that's researched enough. And I'm looking forward to everything that's going to come in the coming years. But yeah.
Oh, thank you, Gina, for sharing that. Let's go with Valeria.
Yeah, so just piggybacking a little bit on what you said, Gina, the respect for your elders and how that's so engraved, and just don't challenge, that's definitely something that, like, I know I felt, but I also think that, like, as Latina women, we have so much like underappreciated inner strength, because we're advocating for ourselves, but we're also fighting machismo. And we have to continue to advocate ourselves and fight though, and fight that inner voice that's like, oh, maybe I should just be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe my career ends when I'm 25 or 30. And really push that and kind of get explain to others that those are the internal battles that we have to face every day.
Yeah, great point that you bring up, Val. I think just overall, I see, Fernanda, who has like a family and she's going to her PhD and she's like doing this and that. I'm like, wow, like she has such a supportive, network of people around her. And she has such a supportive husband and supportive family that, I'm sure that he's going in and helping you whenever he can so that you could continue your career and you could continue your education. So I think that's like very important, point that Val brought up. But then we also see Fernanda's case, and you're such a great role model, like I said before. And I would love for you to start showcasing a little bit more about your family. Start showcasing your husband, how supportive he is, because we need role models like that, especially within the STEM community. I think once we're, ready to, find our partners in life and go about that, we definitely need someone who's supportive and who understands that we work very, very hard to be in the position that we are. And there's no way that I'm going to leave my career just to be a stay-at-home wife, And I think that's a great topic that you bring in, Val, because I feel like as a Latina and within the community, I feel this pressure of like, once you get married, once you have children, you have to do this and that. And, you're a bad mother if you put them into, a whole babysitting center. Like, how dare you do that to your children, whatever the crazy thoughts that they have, So I think that's an ongoing discussion that I would love to continue outside of this YouTube live, to really beat the machismo, because I think that's like a huge blanket over our community that we as Latinas are still fighting to overcome that, overcome those expectations that at this point I feel like they're very unrealistic, based on my life, right? So let's go ahead and go with closing remarks. We had a great panel discussion. We talked about being Latinas, how our experience within our STEM community, how we could continue to be role models, STEM influencers with our community. So with our closing remarks, we want to close up, again, highlighting the Vanessa Guillén case, highlighting and supporting the Guillén family. Ways that you could support that case is going to the GoFundMe website and donating to the family of Vanessa Guillén so that they could continue paying their lawyers and to continue going to the White House to get some type of change, that a true change and true justice for Vanessa Guillén. We also encourage you guys to go to the change.org website. Please sign the petition that the family has posted. Hold the U.S. military accountable for Vanessa Guillén's murder. And then also there is a congressional letter going out to the House of Representatives where there is a bill where hopefully they're able to evaluate sexual harassment within the military and change those actions and those investigations to really truly hold those people that are accountable for those horrible actions that they do. So with any closing remarks, you guys, thank you for joining the Engineering Gals Chat Latinas in STEM. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you for following us. You can follow myself at Bravo Universe, also at Engineering Gals, and then we'll go ahead and go with closing remarks. Panelists, please let them know how they could continue this conversation, how they could continue connecting with you online. Let's start with Brianne.
Sure. So, hey, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Engineering Gals, for having all of us phenomenal Latinas in STEM. Again, this is only a small group of the amazing women that are out there just doing their things. You can find me at Brianne C. Martin, also the People Engineer. Again, Instagram, YouTube, and this is the kind of stuff on TikTok as well. I talk about life, career, and growth, all dedicated, again, about my own experience, how I apply engineering, methodologies to solving everyday people problems. So thank you all so much. And thank you, ladies. This is a phenomenal conversation.
Thank you, Brianne. So let's go ahead and go with Gina, closing remarks.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Engineering Gals, for having us again. And let's get the conversation going. If you're watching the live, don't be shy. If you resonate with anything that we said, please feel free to DM any of us. Personally, you can add me on LinkedIn, Gina Moreno. Just add a note that you come from the Engineering Gals live. You can follow me on Instagram, Gina Moore. And as well, I just started doing TikTok. I also talk about personal growth and personal development. And we're all very passionate to bring the community forward. So please do reach out to us.
Thank you, Gina. Let's go ahead with Paulina.
Hey guys, once again, thank you to Engineering Gals. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all and just to sit here with these beautiful ladies. You can find me on Instagram, Paulina Castrillon. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Paulina Castrillon. And I'm also on TikTok, very simple, Paulina Castrillon. Very easy, it's my name. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, maybe you're interested in environmental health and safety, or maybe you're experiencing sexual harassment, go ahead and shoot me a message on either resources and I'll go ahead and do my best to help you out. Otherwise, from that, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Continue to stay safe and healthy, practice social distancing, wear your mask, and wash your hands, you guys. Thank you so much, and thank you, guys.
Thank you, Paulina. Valeria?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Engineering Gals, for bringing us together to talk about such an important issue and just problem overall. If you guys want to know a little bit more about me, you can find me on Instagram at valeria.engineer. And then I also have a blog called The Civil Stop, so thecivilstop.com. And then again on LinkedIn, if you guys want to find me, add me, send me a message. Let me know that you were in the Engineering Gals Latinas in STEM live, and I'm Valeria Ceron. So feel free. Any messages or any questions on civil engineering, I'm your girl.
Thank you, Valeria. Fernanda?
Hi guys, thank you for tuning in for the past 2 hours. Thank you, Engineering Gals. Yeah, and yeah, you guys can find me on social media and on Instagram. It's Fern Sulantay. I also have a YouTube channel with my name, Fernanda Sulantay, and I'm also doing TikTok videos and with my same Instagram name, Fern Sulantay. And I always try to share about the interesting things that I learned at school, also tips to help people that are going through the same struggles that I went through. So if you have any questions or you want my perspective on something or whatever, you can DM me. And yeah, LinkedIn as well, Fernanda Zulantay.
Yay. Thank you guys so much. I had an amazing time having these important topics and discussions. So thank you guys for joining Engineering Gals. We'll see you on Instagram and tune in to our next YouTube Live. Bye.
Guillén had been missing since April 22nd, and on June 30th, 2020, her remains were discovered near the base.
My name is Brianne Martin, and I am Vanessa Guillén. 1 in 3 girls will have been sexually abused by the time they are 18. In the United States, 1 in 5 women will have been raped in their lifetime.
My name is Maritza Bravo. I am Vanessa Guillén. I am requesting for a congregational investigation in the murder and disappearance of Vanessa Guillén.